Welcome back, Recruiter Guy. Bill Humber is joining us today to talk about how to resign responsibly. This is an important conversation that we probably don't have enough. Bill, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here with us to connect virtually. We hope to be in person soon, but in the meantime, let's talk about resignations.
You know, resignations are something that almost all of us have to face at some point in our careers. Yet, how many of us have been taught how to properly resign? Really very few, right?
It's very true, because it can be a very uncomfortable conversation to have, and it can be emotional as well. So what is the proper way to resign?
Well, for me, I suggest in my books that people write a short resignation letter. And in the letter, thank the manager and thank the company for the time spent there and everything that you've learned. And then step into the next piece, and that is, I'm really excited to tell you that I've found another position that I feel is really going to leverage my career and take me much further. And while I am sad to leave your company or our company, I'm really excited about this particular new opportunity.
And those new opportunities can kind of come when you least expect it. So what's the advantage of writing a letter as opposed to just telling your manager in person? Should you do both? What do you prefer?
Well, it depends on your relationship with your manager, right? If you have a manager who is abrupt and who loses their temper quickly and easily, then possibly I think the proper way would be to write that short resignation letter, and tell them at the end, my last day will be 2 weeks from now. If you have a good relationship with the manager and you're not afraid that that person's going to explode when you give them your notice, then certainly, have the conversation with them and just say, hey, I'd like to have a private conversation with you, and go into their office and say, I really enjoyed working here, and I kind of feel like I've topped out, and what I would like to do is move to another company, and I found one that's going to, I think, really leverage my career growth, and I'm excited about going there. And, my last day will be 2 weeks from now, and in the meantime, I'll transition all of the work to the people you select.
If you have that conversation with your manager in person, should you still write a letter? Should you do both?
I don't think it's necessary to do both. I think what's most important is that you give them that 2 weeks notice.
And you talk about that notice and transitioning your workflow. What is the best way to go about doing that?
Well, first of all, find out who it is that they want you to transition that work to. Typically, it's going to be somebody in your team or your organization, and it will be somebody that they trust to be able to pick up the pieces. Now, sometimes the manager will say things like, wow, you really put us in a bad spot. This was a time when we needed you the most, and blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is now they're leading you to that down the counter offer trip, and you don't want to go down that trip.
What are the disadvantages of accepting a counteroffer? It might be very tempting to accept one.
Well, you better have a job lined up if you expect a counteroffer and you use that as leverage to get increase in pay. That manager, if it's the second time, may just say, you're out of here. And now you're in a real job search because you just use that as leverage. So I would say, here's the metrics. After 6 months, 67% of the people who accept counteroffers have left the company. Some by their choice, some by the company's choice. And at the end of a year, 87% have left the company. Most of the rest of those by the company's choice.
And Bill, I recently had someone ask me this question. It can be so tricky when you are finding a job, looking for a job, or maybe one comes that you don't quite expect, that transition is hard. But do you need to let your employer know, your manager know, if you are indeed looking for another job?
Well, that's a great question, and it depends on the manager. If it's a manager that you feel you can have an honest conversation with, then in that case, just say, hey, I feel like my growth in my career is stalled here. Is there any place that within the company where I can grow, that you would endorse my growth in that area? Now, if they say no, then the answer is you've talked to them, you gave them their shot, they didn't have an answer, and now you go out and you start your search.
That is an excellent way to approach it. And Bill, not only are you inspiring to help others find good jobs, to be encouraged in the process, to know the right way to resign, to do all these things within a job search, and also to help employers and employees, all those aspects. You are very inspiring, but you also are inspiring in the way that you live your life, and you've done some exciting things lately that I'd love to hear about.
You mean my Getting Loose tour with Linda? It'd been 15 months since we had seen Sarah and Ryan and Zoe, our granddaughter Zoe, and Becky and Jason, and our granddaughter Story. And we had our second vaccination in February, and we thought we'll stick it out a couple of more months just to get past the bad weather. And so we left on the Getting Loose tour and drove to Iowa, and then we drove to Madison, Wisconsin, and then I had one state left, and the one state to visit, and here it is. We made it to Mississippi, the last state for me to visit. Linda's got about 4 more, I think, and she conveniently has spread them all over the country. Rhode Island, tiny Rhode Island she'd never been to, Oklahoma, and I think Kansas, and then Oregon. So we have, more trips in the future. We went to Pensacola, Florida for 2 whole days with friends Joe and Leslie, and then drove all the way back to Wisconsin to Linda's brother Paul and his wife Dorothy, and then back to Madison to Sarah and Ryan, and then back to Iowa to Becky and Jason. And we were able to be in Iowa for Story's 8th birthday, so we were really excited about that. And then we came home. So we put a lot of miles on the car, but we had fun doing so.
It looks like you had a lot of fun. Very heartwarming to hear that you're able to see your family again after so long. I know many of us are still waiting for that moment, but it looks like it's coming, and glad to hear that you're healthy and doing well. Bill, where can we get more information and get more great advice about searching for a job, finding a job, and about your books as well?
So RecruiterGuy.com is where you find that wealth of information. And if you click on Just Saying, for every week since, I think it was mid-April of last year, I've written a blog on Job Search Friday, and it is different aspects of finding a job. And then I've also written a blog on Talent Attraction Tuesday from the recruiting perspective for companies to find people. My books are selling well. Employee 5.0, Secrets of a Successful Job Search in a New World Order is doing well. And my new book was picked up by Dorrance Publishing, and they're telling me mid-August is when I should expect that book to be published. And that's Expect Success, The Science of the Over 50 Career Search.
Well, Bill, you are a busy individual. I also highly recommend connecting with Bill Humbert on LinkedIn, always posting great things and even more good advice. We'll be back with more on our business.